What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today, and today we have Nelson Brothers Reserve, which is going to be replacing the Belle Meade Reserve, which you guys have probably seen on your shelves for a long time. I'm excited to try this bottle because it is distilled by Greenbrier Distillery out of Nashville, Tennessee, another Tennessee product, whereas this was an Indiana product, which means we know it was MGP. That being said, let's talk about a few things we know about this bottle. First of all, it is a blend of straight bourbon, so we know it's at least 2 years old. It does come in at 107.8 proof, while the Belle Meade was a whopping 108.3 proof, so not far off when it comes to that proof point. And the other thing that we know about this is, like I said before, it is bottled and distilled by Greenbrier Distillery in Nashville, Tennessee, rather than being sourced by MGP. But before we get into much more about any of that, everybody knows, time for the traditional sip. Cheers, y'all. Not bad. So that's right, the Nelson Brothers Reserve is going to be replacing the Belle Meade line. I believe there's the Nelson Brothers Classic, which is going to be replacing the regular Belle Meade. I believe that Belle Meade is going to be a Nashville-only pickup at this point, but don't quote me on that. I'm not sure if they're going to continue the line or not. But as for today, eventually we're going to review both of these bottles together. But as for today, we are just going to focus on the Nelson Brothers Reserve. Now, here's a concept I want to run by you guys, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. But I'm interested to see what a lot of companies like this, or Penelope, or Smoke Wagon, who are sourcing from MGP, start to get their own distillate behind them and start to use their own product maybe 5, 6, 7 years down the road, whenever that is, what that's going to mean for the future of MGP. Now, I do think a lot more startups will start and use MGP juice, but right now it seems like there's an influx of MGP product, which isn't a bad thing by any means. I'm not one of those haters on MGP. I actually love their product, but it's going to be interesting to see as this bourbon wave continues what that does mean for MGP when a lot of these companies get their own distillate. But let me know what you guys think about this. Let's get into drinkability on this. You know the rules: price, taste, drinkability. We're going to start with drinkability on a scale of 10. Cheers, y'all. So coming in at 107.8 proof, I can tell you right off the bat, the drinkability on this bottle is fantastic. I absolutely love it. It is a high rye mash bill, so you're going to get some of that spiciness on the back of the tongue there. But at the same time, this does not drink like 107.8 proof. Again, it's not age stated, but something's telling me it's a little bit older than that 2-year mark. I'd maybe put it in that 4 to 5 year mark, although I'm not positive on that. I'm not the best when it comes to age on product, especially if it doesn't have a lot of oak behind it, which this one particularly does not. All that being said, I'm going to take one more sip on this. I think this drinks more towards that 95 proof range than 107 proof range, which is a fantastic pour if you think about it for something this young. Again, having that high rye mash bill is going to give it a little bit of spiciness, but let's take one more sip and see what we think. Yeah, I mean, it's my first glass of whiskey for the night, which usually even lends more towards that burn, but this is just absolutely delicious when it comes to drinkability on this. I've got to give it a great score. Put it in the 9s at like a 9.22. Put it in the books. And while drinkability on this is absolutely delicious, I think taste on this is just as good. This almost reminds me of like an Old Forester product line, like a 1910 or a 1920. You get some dark cherry notes on this. You get that high rye. I think it's like 18% rye for the Old Forester line. But at the same time, you get that sweetness with those vanillas, those burnt caramels. Not a lot of oak on this, which I love. I love a light oak taste, but still just a hint of it in the background there. You're not searching for any of these flavors either. They're right there. They're present on your tongue. When you swirl this around in your mouth, it gives you a good mouthfeel and everything. And just going back on drinkability for 1 second here, I think another thing that I enjoy about this glass is even on the nose on this, and I'm not a big nosing guy. I haven't really perfected that craft yet. I am working on it and we'll get there one day. But when you take a sip, you get that whiff in your nose. Normally when there's a big ethanol kick, it hits you in the nose on the sip as well. You don't get any of that when it comes to the drinkability on this. You're really just getting a smooth, delicious, fruit forward, almost a sweet note at the beginning of this, but then you get that rye spice, that punch in your face, that real whiskey bourbon taste that you're looking for. I really do like this a lot, and we're probably going to be right below the 9s because, again, I think it does taste a little bit younger, although it's not in its age group of 2 years, if that's what this is. So I'm going to give this like an 8.87 when it comes to taste on this. So last but certainly not least, we're going to get in a price on this, and I know what you're thinking, Chris, did you just do an outfit change in the middle of your video? And I did, and let me tell you why. I can admit when I make mistakes. I originally looked up the MSRP on this bottle. I didn't know they sold it here in Pennsylvania, or I would have just looked it up online. They sell it here in Pennsylvania for $69.99. It actually MSRPs at $65.99, and I thought it was $36.99, which is apparently the classic version, not the reserve bourbon. So obviously when I saw $36.99 attached to a bottle of bourbon that has great drinkability and a great taste like this, I thought, we're talking top 10 contender for under $40 bottle of bourbon, but that's not what we're dealing with here. We do have a $65 bottle of bourbon, and I thought $36.99 was too good to be true, but I also said it probably deserved to be in that $45 to $50 range. So we're talking 65, which I understand, right? It's their first bottle of bourbon that they're putting out. They need to get a little bit of equity behind the business so they can start to age some of the barrels a little bit longer. So I don't hate the price point at $65. I do think that it should be a little bit lower just because it does seem like we're dealing with a younger bourbon here. You're still getting the proof behind it. Greenbrier Distillery still knows what they're doing, it seems like, when it comes to drinkability and flavor on this. So I can't knock it too much, but at the same time, it's definitely not going to get the score I thought it was going to get at $36.99. So let's give this a price score of, I honestly have no idea what I'm going to give this. I have all my notes done beforehand, so I saw $36.99. Now I got to run it through my head. Let's take one more sip and see what we think. Yeah, again, I think it's just a little bit young, but it's not too bad. At $65, I don't hate it, but I also don't love it. Let's give it a pretty average score when it comes to price on this. Let's drop it in like a 7.82 when it comes to the price scale. But the best part about it, you guys know, we're going to pour up a little bit more here, and let's send it over to this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week and learn a little bit more about Greenbrier Distillery and the Nelson brothers. Cheers. Now, this is a good story as far as bourbon stories go. This bottle right here is done by a man named Charles Nelson. Now, Charles Nelson was actually born in Germany. When he was 15, his father decided, let's move the family to America. They took all of their earthly possessions, converted it into gold, put it in their pockets, and sailed on a ship for the United States. Well, during this voyage, there were intense storms, and it actually sent over 180 people overboard, one of which being Charles Nelson's father. And guess what he had in all of his pockets? That's right, the gold, which weighed him down to the bottom of the ocean. Well, the rest of the family safely made it to New York and eventually to Ohio, where Charles and his brother Andy decided they needed a fresh start, and they moved to the Tennessee area. The two of them decided they were going to start a grocery business, and their three main sales were meat, coffee, and you guessed it, whiskey. Well, eventually the demand for whiskey was so high that they could not keep up with it, so the two of them decided it's enough with the meat and the coffee. Rumor has it that they sold the coffee business to Maxwell House, and their Patreons decided that it was good till the last drop. So Charles actually went and bought the distillery that was making his whiskey for the grocery store, and basically the rest is history from there. We end up here with Nelson Brothers Reserve. What do you guys think? Cheers. But listen, all I know is that if I went overboard, hopefully one of my family members would at least jump over and save the jacket with all of our gold in it. I don't know, that's just me. But obviously I'm back because we have our total score wrong as well when we were comparing a $36 bottle of bourbon to a $65 bottle of bourbon. And this came in at a total score of 8.636. Repeating, we'll call it 8.64. Originally, I think it was like an 8.9, a little bit higher, but at an 8.64, not a bad spot for this at all. Again, I'm really excited to see what Greenbrier Distillery can do in the future. Once they get a little bit more age behind these reserve and the classic as well, I think they're really going to compete with a lot of bourbons. I think that $70 price point is a little bit tough right now, but I also think that they can either keep that or even bring it down just a little bit by the time they get more of this bottle out. But listen, that's where I'm going to leave you for today. Make sure you check me out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. Go click that follow button over there. If you want to come chat with us 24/7, we have a Discord with over 200 members. That link in the description below. If you want to help support the channel out financially, get some behind the scenes stuff, that link in the description below to our Patreon page. And if you want to, please click that like and subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. As always, please don't drink and drive. Always drink responsibly and stay healthy, stay happy, stay drinking. Cheers, y'all. Pretty good.